Hello everyone and welcome back to the Ryan Retro channel. In today's video we're going to carry on where we left off yesterday and jump straight back into the original Xbox. Yesterday we finished by checking Halo Combat Evolved. Now let's jump into Halo 2 and make our way down this alphabetical list right to the end. So let's now jump into Halo 2 and see how it runs. I am really excited to try this. If you saw yesterday's video, you'll know that it was pretty much a colossal fail, but the Family Guy game ran well, so I have some hopes we might be able to get some more working games today. One thing I'm noticing right away here is the audio's okay in this game. This is probably the first game we've tested so far that has good audio. Or if we can get Halo 2 working, this is going to be huge. This game feels pretty smooth so far. One thing I'm noticing, which is the same thing I noticed yesterday, the right stick is really slow. I'm actually going to see if we can get into the settings and increase the sensitivity of this stick because it was starting to strain my thumb after a while. Let's jump into input settings, and we do have some options here. We also have this really cool looking original Xbox controller, and you can see it synchronizes with our buttons, so it kind of works like a gamepad tester. That's really cool. Look sensitivity, there we go. And let's set that to insane. Yeah, I wouldn't describe that as insane, I'd describe that as kind of okay now. Maybe trying to emulate the Xbox on the Retro Pocket 5 is insane, but that's a discussion for a different day. So far it's running quite well. What I'm going to do is I'm going to skip now until when I get a gun, because in yesterday's video I never got that far, whereas this feels smoother than Halo 1. And the crucial part to me is that this has good audio for the first time. So now, through the magic of editing, I'm going to skip ahead to where I have a gun. And just like that, we've got a gun. The game has noticeably slowed down a little bit since things started to actually happen, but this is much smoother than Halo 1, and I'd say this is actually so far pretty playable. The frame rate is probably around, 15, 20 frames per second, definitely not high, but this is certainly playable. I'm actually quite impressed by this. As we walk around reloading, it looks pretty smooth. So against all odds, I'm actually going to mark Halo 2 as playable on the Retroid Pocket 5. Boom! So with everything running pretty smoothly on here, let's move on to the next game. Our next game today will be Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, or if you're from the UK like me, Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. The audio on this also sounds smooth. Has something happened since yesterday? I might need to go back and check the other games. This cutscene is lovely and smooth. Let's see how it is when we actually get into the game.
3 up, 2 across. Right. Stand back, Harry.
Jumping into the Harry Potter game, again we seem to have some pretty nice performance here. Running very nice and smoothly.
Springy. 8.5 inches. Springy.
Let's Avada Kedavra the old man. Take that!
9 inches. Nice and flexible.
Why does everything this man say sound so perverted?
11 inches. Nice and supple.
What is he saying? Oh, I think we found our wand, finally.
Curious. How very curious.
But what's curious?
I never expected you'd have an 11-incher.
Feather.
Push Harry until his back is against the wall, then move him sideways. Who wrote this game? Surely I'm Harry. Surely it should just tell me, move against the wall. Why does everything just sound so wrong?
Spinach flavour?
It's quite refreshing to play this game as a British person because a lot of the games I play are American, so it's quite nice to just play a game where they go, ew, spinach flavour! Well, this game is running really great. It's really smooth. So far we're 2 for 2 with the games. Let's try the next one. The next one is a really famous game, Jet Set Radio Future. Graffiti is art. However, graffiti is an act of vandalism, and it's a crime. Once again, the audio issues we had yesterday are just gone. I wonder what's different today. At the end of this video today, I'm going to have to go back and test a couple of the games from yesterday to see if all of those issues are fixed. I haven't changed the configuration of everything. Maybe I just needed to restart the system. Again, we have this issue we had in the Grand Theft Auto game yesterday, where it looks like the picture doesn't quite fill the screen, and we have this little light bleed line around the edges. Again, this is running beautifully. What has happened? I'm extremely impressed. When I was researching Xbox games to play for this emulation test, this game was really high on the list in so many different people's lists, and I've actually never heard of this game before. I had an original Xbox and I had many games, but I've never heard of this particular one. But it seems to be in a lot of people's favourites. Hello, I saw you from over there and I thought you looked really pretty, so would you like to go skating with me? Please. Please go skating with me. Okay, she's not interested. I get it. Sometimes you have to give up and move on. And I think once again we can say this game is running beautifully. So, Jet Set Radio Future, if you want to play this on the Retroid Pocket 5 through Xbox emulation, it's definitely playable. Fantastic! Let's move on to the next game. Our next game is Legends of Wrestling, and as soon as I saw this box art, I was hit with so much nostalgia. This is definitely a game I had in my collection, because I really recognize that box art so vividly. This game I actually tested out yesterday before I made my YouTube video. This was the one game I jumped into just to test that the emulator was even working at all, and it ran really badly. There were glitchy textures, it looked like the wrestler's skin was covered in brown grease, and it seems to still be running poorly like that. So we're playing as Hulk Hogan against Jimmy the Superfly Snuka. And it does actually seem to be running a little bit better than it was yesterday, so I'm not sure what changed. But it's definitely still not running very well, and those textures are horrible. It's a little bit like Forza Motorsport 1 we played yesterday, when we only had shadows and no cars. It feels like there's some really weird shadowing effects. So while this is running, and honestly the frame rate is not horrendous, I mean definitely not great, we're probably running around 15 frames per second or so, maybe even less. It's not the worst game we've played so far, and also the speed is okay. Get up, Hulk. Get him, Hulk. He said he believes in equality. So I'm not going to go as far as to say that this game is playable, but it's somewhat playable. And compared to yesterday's games, it's actually running kind of okay. But this is not a game I want to play anymore, so let's jump into the next one. The next game up is Medal of Honor Frontline, another game I had in my collection, and I believe it was this version of Medal of Honor when you could play as a character called Granny. I remember playing this with my cousin. We'd play split screen co-op, and it was always a fight to pick who was going to be Granny that day. Again, it seems to be very smooth. Let's see if I can find Granny. Oh, there she is, Nana! There she is, the legend herself, Nana. Brilliant. And I'm going to see if I can quickly connect another controller so we can jump into split screen co-op and test the performance, because this is something I've got a lot of experience on with the real Xbox, and I'm just really curious to see if we can get two controllers working on this setup. So let's go to Settings, All Settings, Input, and let's select controller number 2. And I'm not sure how we'd go around connecting this, because we're going to have to connect it with Bluetooth somehow. I think we might have to quit the game. Controller and Bluetooth settings. Enable Bluetooth. Pair a Bluetooth device. Then where are those Bluetooth devices? I'm not seeing an option for them. Bluetooth scan is already running. My controller is in pairing mode. You can see the flashing light. But we're not seeing anything on here. Well, I can't seem to find an option to pair the device, so unfortunately it's not going to be possible right now. Maybe there's a way to do it, I'm just not sure where it is. So let's kiss that dream goodbye and just jump into a single player version of the game. Now we might have found another game that's too challenging because we are in slow motion, and once again the fan is ramping up occasionally, which never happens in Android. but did happen once or twice in our video yesterday testing the same Xbox system. Just looking at how terrible this is running, I don't think it's even worth trying to get further into the game because this is horrible. Just to test I haven't somehow messed up the settings, I jumped back into Jet Set Radio, and once again we're running this beautifully. And I was able to get the woman to talk to me! Our next game is Midtown Madness 3. I loved this game back in the day. We have a really long loading screen. I've been watching this for about 30 seconds at this point, but it seems smooth. And again, the audio is great. Looks like we're lagging a little bit now. Let's go for a single race. Let's put the traffic density light first of all, and the pedestrians light as well. That might help us to run the game. A 1985 Renault R5, a finer car was never made. Oh, and once again we have real problems with lighting. The frame rate doesn't seem particularly good, but we are running quite quickly. It's just a shame about this lighting problem that's making it really unplayable. I don't think Xemu has many settings inside. For other applications we can change the driver to something like a turnip driver that might fix this kind of issue, but I don't think there's much inside of Xemu we can really do. But just for fun, let's try another race with very heavy traffic, tons of performance enhancing drugs, and loads of cops. Oh, we're definitely getting worse performance with a higher level of things around. You can barely even see my retro license plate. Yeah, this game is absolutely horrible. But the sad thing is that when we had a low level of action happening, the performance wasn't too bad. So it's a shame about this horrific glitching that just makes it completely unplayable.
What do you think you're doing? Stop immediately!
Bit rude. Our next game is MTV Celebrity Deathmatch. I remember watching this as a kid. They had celebrities made out of clay, basically just murdering each other. I'm really curious how that translates into a game. Once again, the sound is working really well. If you didn't watch yesterday's video, you probably will be confused why I keep saying the sound is working well. That's because yesterday I tested a bunch of Xbox games, and in almost every single case, the audio was horrifically bad. But today it's working really well, so that makes me really happy. Let's jump into a death match. I can also create a celebrity, which I'm pretty sure that's not a celebrity if I just create them. So let's see what early 2000s celebrities we've got to work with here. We've got, oh my God, look at that. Is that Marilyn Manson? We've got Mr. T, Carmen Electra, Dennis Rodman, Tommy Lee, Carrot Top, Anna Nicole, Cindy Margolis, Ron Jeremy, Buster Rhymes, Jerry Springer, Cleo, yeah, Marilyn Manson, and then we have a lot of locked ones. Shannon Doherty, NSYNC, all of NSYNC. I can just be the whole of NSYNC. And I don't really know who half of these people are. I was going to be Buster Rhymes because I was a really big fan of his song Break Your Neck, but I want to see if I can be the whole of NSYNC because that sounds hilarious. Oh, I have to pick one. Okay, let's be Justin Timberlake then. No, you know what? I'm going to be Jerry Springer, and I'm going to teach that young, good-for-nothing whippersnapper Justin Timberlake a lesson or two. Jerry, Jerry. My controller doesn't seem to work. What is this? I can't move the controls and he's just farting music at me. What is this game? Let's move on to the next game. Stop! Oh, what a mess. Oh, the controller's just not working at all. It's not just that game, the controller's just died. Okay, I'm gonna have to turn it off and back on again. Maybe we'll try that again. The next game on our list is Outrun 2. An official licensed product of Ferrari. Oh, wow. Let's just keep smashing the A button, or in this case, the B button. Well, we're running the game. We don't have those horrific lighting issues we had before. The quality looks just okay, like with most of these games. It's not upscaled or anything like that. We seem to be running in super fast motion, and the frame rate is pretty bad. I did read in my Discord before that some people had issues running this game. We definitely don't have any issues getting it running, but it's certainly not what I would call playable because it's pretty laggy. As is the case with a lot of these games, I think the frame rate's probably hovering around 15 or so. There are some points when it looks pretty smooth, maybe moving up to around... Oh, hello. Maybe... What a landing. Sometimes it looks like it's jumping up into the low 20s, but I think we're mostly in the teens here, and I wouldn't really call this playable. But with Xbox being in the immature state that it is, I'm actually quite happy even having this much for now. I'm not looking to Xbox emulation as something I want to do regularly. I'm just trying it out, and it's nice to see that we can somewhat get something playable here. Oh, I've extended time and apparently gone to heaven, I think. We seem to be driving in the clouds, but raining grass. Oh, hello. Yeah, this is definitely not in a playable state. Let's move on to the next game. The next game is Project Gotham Racing 2, an absolutely iconic racing game from my childhood. This is another one that I tried out before filming the video yesterday, and I'm pretty sure it doesn't run very well. But let's just test it out together. Maybe you guys are my good luck charm. I mean, not if yesterday was anything to go by, but today's going pretty well. Well, we seem to be getting some movement. We're getting something. But this is really, really unplayable performance. We can barely even move. It goes without saying, this is not playable. So let's move on to the next game immediately. Oh, and we've also crashed the system. So this is the state of Rocknix right now. It managed to pull itself back there, but actually when I was testing yesterday, I did crash the whole system a couple of times. So I wouldn't say Rocknix is in a very stable position right now. Maybe if you installed it to the internal SD card, it might be more stable, but I would not recommend doing that. I would highly recommend you stick with Android for now. Let's jump into the next game, Quantum Redshift. I've mentioned it before in a few previous videos that growing up I wasn't really a fan of racing games, but when it came to racing games, my favourite ones were these more futuristic ones. I can hear the Retroid Pocket 5's fans amping up as we play this game, so it might be a little bit more demanding than some of the others. I can see some of the other cars disappearing and reappearing on the screen. This game's running quite respectively, but there are definitely some graphical issues. It feels like we're half driving through the floor. I realise some of this may be water, but it looks a bit glitchy. I've picked up some colours. Oh, hello. Oh, we have a shield, we have a missile. I think one of them might be a speed boost. Maybe the blue one. If you look closely at this, you'll see that the other cars are basically under the ground and keep appearing and disappearing, and it's a little bit confusing. So this is definitely not running very well at all. I wouldn't really say it's playable, which is a shame because the performance definitely is playable. This is definitely smooth enough to play. It's probably in the high 20s, around 28, 29, very close to a solid 30, if not a solid 30. But the textures are really messed up. So while this game is not going to go down as playable for me due to the textures, it is performing very, very nicely, which gives me hope for the next games on the list. So let's move on to the next game now. The next game is one of my favourite games from my childhood. I don't really remember it much, but I remember renting this from one of the game rental shops and thinking it was legendary. So this is Shrek II. We have that cool book opening like the Shrek films. That's a nice touch. And we are most definitely running in slow motion here. We have some big punches. Whoa! Get off my swamp! I need to do an impression of a Canadian man doing an impression of a Scottish man. Get off my swamp! Shrek 2, underrated game. It is quality. I highly recommend trying it out, but maybe try and play it on a different platform, because it's definitely running very slowly here. Oh, the gingerbread man can throw his candy cane. That's so cool. As soon as I finish filming and uploading this video, I'm immediately going to find what other systems you can play Shrek 2 on, and I'm going to get them installed tonight. Again, this game sounds good, it runs mostly good, but it's unfortunately too slow. So let's move on to the next game. Next up we have two Simpsons games, and I'm not sure why, but I cannot scrape the artwork for them, they're just blank. So this game is yet again one of my favourite games growing up, The Simpsons Hit and Run. I've already shown a comparison of this in my previous comparison video, showing this running on both PlayStation 2 and GameCube. So this is now the third system we're trying this on the Retroid Pocket 5. On GameCube it runs beautifully. It also runs quite good on PS2, but so far the best performance is through Dolphin on GameCube. So if you want to play The Simpsons Hit and Run, use Dolphin and play the GameCube version. But let's see how the Xbox version compares. We're into the game and running around, it actually seems really smooth. The graphics quality is far below what you'll get in PlayStation 2 and GameCube emulation, but it's nice and smooth, it feels like it's in real speed. There's just a bit of stuttering when you spin the camera around. I'm not sure if Xemu builds shader caches or not. But so far, this is a pretty nice performer. Let's jump into the sedan and see how it runs when picking up the speed. The initial impression is actually very good. I'm really surprised, this is running nicely. Of all the games I've played so far, this is probably my favourite. Because it's running pretty quickly and it's just a good game as well. If we didn't have the GameCube and PS2 versions, I would be more than happy to play this. We're getting the occasional stuttering, especially when spinning the camera around, but overall the performance here is really nice. So The Simpsons Hit and Run, definitely playable on Xbox on the Retroid Pocket 5. That's great news. Now let's jump into another Simpsons game. Next up we have The Simpsons Road Rage. This is the less popular version of Hit and Run, which I think just focused on the driving element. But Hit and Run was a lot more popular because you could combine driving with walking, and it was basically like a children's GTA. We'll play as Grandpa around Evergreen Terrace. Once again, it seems like we're in fast motion. We are insanely quick. I'm really curious if this is how fast games were back then, or there's just something messed up with the timing, because this seems way too fast. Again, the graphics quality is also pretty low, but it seems to be running pretty well. Oh, this is Crazy Taxi. Oh, I remember reading about this game now, because I remember they had to change this icon at the top of the screen because it was too similar to Crazy Taxi. I think The Simpsons maybe even got sued over this game. Maybe that's why you don't hear about it much anymore. Oh, sorry, Willie. Wow, there is absolute chaos happening right here. Again, this game's running pretty well. It's pretty smooth and quick. There's not too much stuttering going on, but I don't think there's any reason to play this while Crazy Taxi exists. Oh my god, Waylon Smithers just hates me. What are you doing? There you go, Mo. Have fun at the tavern. So yeah, Waylon Smithers, again, just smashing up everybody. So yeah, this game runs pretty well, but I wouldn't recommend playing it because it just looks awful. So let's move on to the next game. And we've also just crashed after I said it runs well, which happens every video. Our next game is Sonic Heroes. Let's go, Team Sonic. Seems to be running okay-ish. It's definitely not running at 60 frames per second, or not even 30, I don't think. It's probably in the mid to high 20s, but it's running quite well. And the way I'm feeling about most of the games today is if you didn't physically have another way to play these games, then this might be an okay way. But if you have alternatives, then there's no real point of even trying this. But this is for science. Oh, let's go Tails, you hero. The performance in this is definitely not bad. So if you want to play Sonic Heroes, you definitely can play it with Xbox emulation on the Retroid Pocket 5. Let's move on to the next game. And I've just realised I'm once again running out of camera battery, so I'm just going to pick and choose a few games from the rest of this list now, because I don't think I'm going to have time to get through all of them. You know what, let's just fly through the games a little bit faster so we can get through them all. So this is SpiderMan II. It immediately seems to be performing pretty well. It's quite smooth. We're now swinging around the city and it's running pretty well. Even as we spin around, in some of the other games, when you spin the camera around like this, you get a lot of stuttering. But this game's running really nicely. Even when you spin the web and spin around the corners, everything's just running really nicely. So SpiderMan II, definitely playable on Xbox on the Retroid Pocket 5. Next up we have Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. I'm not a Star Wars fan, I never have been. I've actually never watched any of the movies, so I mean, I might be if I watch them. I've seen a lot of people say it's one of the best Xbox games, and it was one of the highest selling Xbox games. But for me, this is going to be a new experience, so I'll just tell you how the performance is. Right away, it's pretty laggy. We're not really getting very good performance here. Even just running around is quite choppy, so I don't think this is going to be a very good performer. So unfortunately, this is not going to be running very well, so let's move on to the next game. Our next game is Tetris Worlds, and the reason I'm including this in this video is because I've heard a lot of people in my Discord are having issues with various Tetris games on the Retroid Pocket 5. You'd think Tetris would be something really easy to run, but it's apparently been quite difficult for a lot of people. So I was curious how well this version would run, and straight away it seems to be running really nicely. So if you want to play Tetris on your Retroid Pocket 5 or similar device, then Xbox emulation might be the way to go, because this is very smooth. You won. Oh, I didn't even know you could win Tetris, but apparently I just won. Nice! Next we have Timesplitters 2. I'm very curious to get a shooting game working. Oh, we have an inverted system. Oh, it's very hard to control. Oh, this is so difficult. Let me think about this for a second. Left, right, up. Oh, up and down are inverted. Wait a second. Please let me change that. I found with a lot of these Xbox games, invert look or inverse look is enabled by default. And surely if something's inverted, that means it shouldn't be the standard. Anyway, I personally don't like that, so I'm going to turn that off. And hopefully now I'll be able to aim. Oh, hello. Oh. I spoke too soon. Why is it so hard to aim? Well, I'm not very good at Timesplitters 2 apparently, so let's move on to the next game. But it does run pretty well, I think. This is Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 4, and I know that Tony Hawk's games are usually quite hard to emulate on many systems. And I feel like that's the case here too, because the audio is a little bit scratchy, and we're definitely not running at a very smooth frame rate here. This isn't going very well. Let's move on to the next game. This is Ultimate Spider-Man. This looks really nice. It has those cel-shaded graphics I like. And again, it's running very well. This looks like it's running at maybe 60 frames per second. Of all the games I've tested so far on Xbox, this is the one that seems to be running at the highest frame rate. It's really smooth without seeming like it's in fast motion. The graphics here look really great. I'm not sure if this beacon of light is rendering correctly because it looks kind of like a big green slime, as well as all of these pink lines. I'm not sure if that's how it's meant to look. But if that is how it's meant to look, this is actually looking and running great. This game looks beautiful and it runs really well. So if you want to play Spider-Man games on Xbox, you've got a few choices here. This is Winning 11-9, or in the UK, Pro Evolution Soccer 5. This series is now known as eFootball. Right away, it looks much better than how FIFA looked yesterday. And back in this time, like the early 2000s, I did much prefer Pro Evolution Soccer to FIFA back then. Seems to be running pretty smoothly, definitely much better than FIFA was. It feels pretty nice, actually. So I would say this is pretty playable. This is Raw 2, another game that I had as a kid, and the box art gave me a lot of nostalgia. This is definitely not going to be playable because as soon as we jumped into the game like this, just trying to move menu options takes seconds. I actually just moved that stick then, if you saw it, and it hasn't updated yet. There are effects going off, so the game hasn't completely frozen, but it's just not working at all. Look at this, that is absolutely horrific. Probably the worst game we've played at all. So let's move on to the next one. This is Yu-Gi-Oh! The Dawn of Destiny. We're going to duel against the duel machine. The game doesn't look too bad. Definitely looks good enough to play. I did just put that card in the wrong position though. Seems to be running totally fine as well. I think this is a fine experience if you want to play some quick Yu-Gi-Oh on the Xbox. I wouldn't really recommend it because again, we have so many great Yu-Gi-Oh games we can play on the Retroid Pocket 5. There's actually a huge list. I personally really like GX Tag Force on the PSP, but there are so many you can pick from. It is just endless. So this definitely wouldn't be my first choice to play from, but it looks okay. If you look at card information, you can quickly and easily see what each card does. There's no readability issues, and the performance is fine too. So this is definitely a fine Yu-Gi-Oh game, and it's running well here. So now, as promised, I will go back to one of the games we looked at yesterday, just to see if we miraculously have better performance today, or if something changed just from restarting the machine. This is Auto Modelista, which we tried yesterday. Once again, the sound is completely fine. I think there was something messed up with the sound yesterday. We had so many audio problems that seem to be completely fixed today. So it's a bit concerning why that happened in the first place, but it's also good to know it can be fixed. Or maybe this game was just already running perfectly yesterday, I honestly don't remember. I've chosen Auto Modelista to go back to because it's a game that runs really easily on PS2. So I'm hoping we can get some decent performance here on the Xbox emulator. Oh, that counting didn't look very good. No, unfortunately we do have the same slow performance as yesterday, so a miracle didn't come true today. But that's also very interesting, because what that means is that all the games we tried in the bottom half of the alphabet worked way better than the games in the top half of the alphabet. And I'm not sure why that is, I guess it's just a coincidence. But after yesterday's fiasco of a video, I'm really impressed with how today went. I think this was a really good collection of games. If you didn't watch yesterday's video, you might not be very impressed with today's findings compared to PS2 and GameCube emulation, but you have to understand that Xbox emulation is far less mature than those ones, and I'm really impressed with the results we got today. And on that note, my camera is about to die, so I'm going to say thank you very much for watching this video. I hope it was helpful, and if it was, please give me a like and subscribe if you didn't already. If you'd like to pick up your own Retroid Pocket 5, I'll leave my affiliate link to the official Retroid website in the link below. You can also check out the link below to my Discord channel where you can chat with me. I'll help you with any problems when I can, and you can join in our community spreadsheet to share how to get the best performance out of lots of different systems. I just added in Wii U and PS Vita, so check those out. Thank you once again for watching, and I'll see you again on Monday for a PlayStation 3 emulation video, so stick around for that. See you then. Bye!